Hi, I'm Lex Fajardo, and this is Hama the Pig. And today on Kid Kayfabe, we'll be looking at the 2003 seminal issue of Kid Beowulf #1. Hey guys, Lex here, and I'm going to do a Kid Beowulf Kayfabe in honor of one of my favorite video comic podcasts and videocasts, the cartoonist Kayfabe, hosted by the excellent Jim Rugg and Ed Piskor. If you've not been and watched their video feed, I highly recommend it, especially if you're a cartoonist or a fan of comics. They do deep dives into all kinds of comic books. It started as like a fun look back at the Wizard fan magazine, and since then, in the years, they've explored all kinds of great comics, doing really great analysis and deep dives of those comics, and I enjoy watching their stuff. And I thought, you know what, for the 20th anniversary of Kid Beowulf, which is actually this year, 2003 to 2023, we take a look back in the cartoonist kayfabe style to Kid Beowulf issue 1, circa 2003. You can actually see there is the date right there, and we're just going to take a loving look back, or a fond look back, I don't know. We'll see how far we get into this first issue. I did this way back when I was just sort of dipping my toe into comic book illustration. For the long time prior to this, I was doing comic strips. I did a daily comic strip called Plato's Republic. Some of you might remember that, born out of my college comic strip of the same name, and I was looking to get it syndicated back when you could do such a thing for newspapers and the like. And then I started to dip a toe into longer form stories with this crazy iteration of Beowulf. And so here's the first look at Beowulf and Grendel, 12-year-old twin brothers. And let's just, dive in, take a look, see how this holds up, if it holds up. I did about 250 copies, I think, of this first issue. I would take them to comic conventions on the East Coast. That's where I was living at the time. And I would just go up and down the coast and go to shows like SPX and the Mocha Festival in New York City, Baltimore Comic-Con, Pittsburgh Comic-Con, when that was a thing back in the day. Go to smaller shows. And I would just take this in my comic strip work, Plato's Republic, and really an early version of this started out as like a 12-page zine. And then I started to expand on the story, and this very first publication came out in 2003. So this is actually a chapter from the larger graphic novel that we may look into a little bit later. This is actually the full graphic novel. This came out in 2005, and this is kind of a quick look at that. And we may dip into that later if folks are interested. But this particular chapter, A Night Sortie, A Day Assault, ends up being sort of the bonus chapter back here. So I remember when I first did this comic, I really didn't know what I was doing, and that's some advice I would give to a lot of cartoonists out there, or would-be cartoonists. The best way to learn is just by doing, just like figure it out, sit down at the drawing board and try and map it out. Those first comic pages are going to be challenging for sure, in terms of visual storytelling, in terms of like making the characters look the same from panel to panel. There are a lot of things you just sort of learn along the way. At least that was how it was for me. I'm just sort of a do-it-yourselfer. Obviously, I was inspired by all the comics that I read growing up. In particular, I think if you were to look at early versions of Kid Beowulf, you'd see a lot of comic strip influences from things like Asterix, Looney Tunes. For instance, if you take a look at Grendel here, if you're familiar with the Looney Tunes cartoon, Bully for Bugs, in which Bugs Bunny is in the bull ring as a toreador fighting a bull, great cartoon by Chuck Jones. When I was developing the look of Grendel, I had that in mind because I originally really wanted Grendel to evoke some of the motifs of bulls and cows, because they have a very, things like the Minotaur, and in mythology there's the bull motif that comes up again and again. And so I looked to the great depiction of the bull from Bully for Bugs and kind of brought some of those elements into the design of Grendel in those early pages. So that's a little bit, there's some insight into the way Grendel looks. Beowulf sneaks into, basically the premise of this is that Beowulf and Grendel are perched on an overhang, spying on a Heathobard camp. The Heathebards are a rival tribe, and Beowulf and Grendel have been sent out to scout and get back some information about what it is they are doing. Beowulf, of course, wants to head down because he's bored and nothing's going on. And Grendel, being the wise and smarter one, tells him that, no, just chill. We're just gonna do what our uncle tells us to do and sit tight. So Beowulf, of course, decides to ignore his brother, and he finds himself tripping over the cliff and down into a pig pen. This is the Heathobard pig pen, and that's where he is soon discovered by the Heathobard chef. This is the cook of the Heathobards, and he mistakes Beowulf for some kitchen help that his chieftain has sent along to help him prepare the breakfast meal. This is actually the first time we see a small pig who will actually become Hama the pig. So there you go, first appearance of Hama the pig. He hides in Beowulf's tunic because he does not want to get chopped up for the Heathobard breakfast. Time to pop in and pay the bills, isn't that right, Hama? You bet, Lex. So here at the Kid Beowulf Kayfabe, it is brought to you by the books that we make, in particular, the Kid Beowulf graphic novel series. There are 4 books in the series so far, book 1, 2, 3, and 4. All of these are available in the Kid Beowulf Studio shop. Just head on over to kidbeowulf.com and you can order them. All of them come signed by yours truly. There are a couple of special items in the Kid Bee store. For instance, this limited edition Kickstarter edition of book 4, The Tarpeian Rock. This is the winner of the Benjamin Franklin Award Silver Medal for Graphic Novels in 2021. And this library edition, really nicely printed. It's got a lot of cool back matter for those of you who want to know about the ins and outs of making a graphic novel. Some cool essays and some other cool Easter eggs in here. And there were only 50 of these made for the Kickstarter, and we just got a handful of them left. All of them are signed and numbered. They will come with a sketch by me in the center. So head on over to the Kid Beowulf shop to see what's left of these and put your order in before they vanish. Also, another new book that's worth mentioning is one of Hama's favorites. It is Hama the Pig's Big Adventure. This was a storybook that we did also in 2021. This is the tale of a young Hama the Pig before he actually meets Beowulf, and he dreams of going on an adventure of his own, where he dreams of being a Viking, and he gets his wish, and along the way, he meets a young boy as well. So this is actually a prequel, believe it or not, to the events of Book 1, The Bloodbound Oath. It's all about Hama dreaming and yearning of being a Viking on the high seas. And if you're a super special fan, you can also order one of these super cute plush Hama the Pig plush dolls. So hey, check it out at kidbeowulf.com, studio store. All of these books are available. And back to the program. Beowulf dashes out and comes across this tent where they hear some of the plans from the Heathobard chieftains about what they're going to do to the Danes, which is the tribe that Beowulf and Grendel are a part of. And of course, Beowulf gets captured, and the clever little pig seems to run off. We'll see what happens there. This is an early look at Froda, who was a big player in the graphic novel, The Bloodbound Oath. You may have remembered Froda. This is him early on, kind of has a Bluto look to him. And, Beowulf tries to talk his way out of this, but Froda is not having any of it. And of course, they're going to have some fun with Beowulf. A lot of the early influences for Kid Beowulf, and I've said this often in a lot of interviews and such, was Jeff Smith's Bone. I was a late comer to the comic. I remember seeing it on the stands in the early 90s, but I was still very much in the guise of looking toward Image and folks like Todd McFarlane and Jim Lee and Rob Liefeld, and I saw Bone, and I liked what was going on in it because I often really like cartoony stuff, but for whatever reason, I was slow to discover it. But around this time in the late 90s, I would say 98, 99, I rediscovered it, and at this point it was in the graphic novel form. So I started to read those black and white collected editions and really just loved what Jeff Smith was doing and realized, oh man, that's great cartooning. That is kind of what I want to do with my own work. So a lot of these iterations, the black and white, just sort of the focus on kind of the funny and that Looney Tunes-esque thing that Jeff Smith brought to those early issues of Bone. I was trying to just channel some of that as best I could. So here we got Beowulf tied up. King Froda is goading on his Heathobards. And here's another fun peek at early iterations of Ermloff and Emer, the two Heathobards that we meet in The Bloodbound Oath, in The Song of Roland, and in El Cid, and many of the other short stories. This is what they look like early on. And Ermloff, actually, he kind of looks not too different from when I first drew him. And Emer has changed a little bit, but that's kind of what he looked like early on. And then, of course, some other goofy guys. My first foray with a, the 9-panel grid right here. And here we go with the big reveal. There's Hama the pig, who went to get reinforcements, and Grendel coming hard down on Froda. And of course, one of the conceits early on for Kid Beowulf was the fact that obviously Beowulf, Grendel are twin brothers, and the bickering back and forth was just one of those fun gags I could always sort of come back to again and again. They're fighting with themselves more than they are fighting with the Heathobards and the tribes that want to kill them. That take still works 20 odd years later, and I really like how this. I remember when I drew this almost Cannonball special throw that Grendel does here. It still kind of works. My style is really just big and chunky, and I'm just still trying to figure out how to draw characters consistently, especially these humanoid characters. But there are some moments in this comic that I think work still. And I remember when I first drew this, I was having a lot of fun, but man, it was just tough. It was tough to do 20 odd pages of comics, panel after panel. But every now and then, some fun things happen along the way. Here's Hama. He's not yet named Hama, so Beowulf is calling out, "Pig, my sword," and boom, hops along. This, of course, is Nagling the Talking Sword, so he's got his early iteration there. Kind of some Looney Tunes-esque fight and battles and such. But I like how this turned out, It's just fun. It's kind of fun to revisit it these many years later. And that's it. There you go. There's the finale of the first issue, Beowulf, Grendel, Hama the pig, in a kind of a Bruce Lee style pose. And they got to fight their way out of another big battle. Here is an ad for the graphic novel I mentioned before. Get the full story, Kid Beowulf, the epic saga, in a prestige 150-page graphic novel. That's what this ended up being. I think I put Christmas 2003, but it actually took a little bit longer to finish this one. But there's a glimpse of Kid B, circa 2003. So there's Frodo. They want to eat you. How do you feel about that? Bite me. Pretty funny. So there you go. First issue of Kid Beowulf, circa 2003. Thank you for following me down memory lane. I hope that was enjoyable. It was kind of fun to just, peek at this again, see what worked, see how far it's come. If I have any advice for young cartoonists who are getting into this, it's easy. Comics can be intimidating to make, and I get that because we have these desires in our head for our artwork to just look a certain way. But it takes a long time, guys, believe me. But the best, advice I can give anybody who wants to make comics is just to do them. Get a piece of paper, get some pencils, start drawing. And the more that you draw, the better you will get. And the more that you will refine the story that is in your head. But it's so important just to start. And, and you kind of fix it later. And you have, the only enemy to making comics is time, because they take so much time. But I think if you're patient and if you just kind of have fun doing it, that fun will translate on the page. And before long, you'll have yourself a 20-page comic. And maybe if you're lucky, you'll still be doing that comic 20 years later. So anyway, thanks guys. This was fun. And maybe we'll take a peek at the full graphic novel Kid Beowulf, which came out not too long after that first issue. So there you go. There's a sneak peek. If you like this, maybe we'll come in and investigate this one as well.